Okay.
All right, so with that, and I should have looked at what page we are in our hymnals as well. See, that's what happens when y'all give us fried chicken for lunch. We can't think in the afternoon when we get back here. Page 129 of your budget books.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
And colleagues, you have copies of the presentations in front of you as well. So I'll turn that over to you.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you. Vice Chair 1 and members of council, good afternoon. My name is Santana Kempson Wright, City Council Chief of Staff, and I am honored to present the Atlanta City Council's fiscal year 2026 proposed budget today. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the council leadership joining me on stage today. To my left is Municipal Clerk, Election Superintendent Corinne A. Lindo, and beside her is Deputy Municipal Clerk Evelyn Scott. Soon to be to my right is our Council Communications Director, Zena Lewis. We are also joined by other esteemed members of our incredible team in the audience. Before diving into presentations, I want to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to each and every member who supports this department, your department, our partner departments, and the constituents and visitors of Atlanta. Their dedication and contributions are truly invaluable. I would also like to send a special appreciation to Ms. Wasona Hammonds-Griffin, a 32-year veteran employee, semi-retired, with the Atlanta City Council. She officially retired last summer, but has graciously remained a part of the team to ensure knowledge, training, and continuity of operations are preserved. She is truly a gem, always willing to help anyone with anything. I look forward to the time when we can formally celebrate her retirement and honor her extraordinary service. And with that, now we've highlighted our incredible team, I'll take a closer look at the organizational structure on the next slide.
And as you're transitioning, I just want to acknowledge we've been joined this afternoon by Council Members Amos and Hillis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You will see the organizational structure on this slide, which is comprised with the Atlanta City Council, led by the Election Superintendent, Municipal Clerk, Ms. Corinne A. Lindo, and myself, Santana Kempson Wright. Underneath, you'll see the breakdown of our offices and various leadership that's noted there. Next, I'll take a look at some of your key highlights for fiscal year 2025. In 2025, you authored various pieces of legislation, adopted items to impose tax increases on owners of neglected properties that contribute to urban blight, to establish Atlanta's first initiative to preserve and support longstanding businesses that are cultural and economic pillars to the community. This particular program, the Atlanta Business Program, provides vital resources to combat displacement and gentrification, ensuring these cherished establishments continue to thrive. You authored additional funding to support place-based street outreach and rehousing efforts for individuals experiencing homelessness. You celebrated the Sons of Atlanta Vietnam War Memorial groundbreaking, the first Vietnam memorial commissioned by the City of Atlanta. You amended the Code of Ordinances to allow eligible city employees to use accrued sick leave for pregnancy, childbirth, or other related medical conditions. You amended the litter control law to define yard trimmings be classified as litter, making it a violation to improperly dispose of them on private or public property. You established the Atlanta Homelessness Task Force to evaluate the city's policies on homelessness. Commissions, honors, and markers. You renamed Westside Reservoir Park and a portion of Central Avenue to Shirley Clark Franklin Park and Shirley Clark Franklin Boulevard, respectively. You accepted recommendations to determine the appropriate manner to honor the late Michael Langford Sr., renamed a portion of Dixie Street to Evelyn G. Ullman, a notable figure known for her work in various fields, including social work, psychology, and community advocacy. You designated Brown Avenue as honorary Reverend Dr. Robert Rice Jr. Way, established a commission to determine manner to honor Judge Thelma Wyatt Cummings Moore, the first woman to serve full-time on the Atlanta Municipal Court and to serve as Chief Judge of the Fulton County Superior Court. The Infrastructure Sustainability Task Force was to partner with subject matter experts to review and improve sanitary sewer and combined sewer infrastructure. Your Neighborhood Sports Council is for neighborhoods surrounding large event venues and allows a structured platform to voice concerns and collaborate with event organizers. Artificial Intelligence Commission helps to explore the benefits, opportunities, and challenges of the use of AI in city government. And other noteworthy mentions include Merrill M. Davis, Maury Stone Davis, Joyce Smith, the Floyd family, Anthony Tickman Jones, and Zakiya Smith. You donated over $525,000 to nonprofits to support affordable housing initiatives, regional transportation models, public art, education efforts, mental health, home repairs for seniors, neighborhood associations, nature preserves, green space initiatives, security initiatives, parks, and ministries. A few of those contributions included Horizons Atlanta, Atlanta Children's Day Shelter, Sheltering Arms, EV's Foundation, Atlanta Preservation Center, Georgia Organics Living Walls, Atlanta Police Foundation, Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation, Georgia Works, Georgia Organics, Mothers Against Violence, Atlanta Community Lawyers. The next slide highlights a few of the current accomplishments I'm proud of within the department and what we're looking forward to improve in fiscal year 26. We've strengthened security measures across the council suite, Marvin S. Arrington Sr., and committee rooms to ensure a safer and more secure environment. We developed an inventory tracking system to optimize department management and maintain compliance with AIM standards. We spearheaded the FY2026 broadcasting upgrades projects with the Mayor's Office of Communications, achieved an outstanding communications reach, totaling 32.4 billion impressions with a daily reach of 92.6 million. What we're looking for in FY26 is a comprehensive commission review to ensure the purview of standing committees remains updated and aligned, developing an electronic training manual for the 2025 elections to streamline onboarding and enhance accessibility for education, completion of Committee Room 2, which will enable you to fully utilize it for broadcasting, assess the feasibility of converting council permanent part-time positions to full-time roles in collaboration with Department of Human Resources, and last but not least, collaborating with the Municipal Clerk's Office to implement the new electronic legislative management system. In your packet, you'll find a handout which details the metrics, data, and statistics for the Office of Research and Policy, Business Support Services, and the Office of Communications. I will now turn it over to Municipal Clerk Lindo to provide highlights for the Office of the Municipal Clerk before diving into the budget.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you all. It's been about a year now that I've been the municipal clerk for the city of Atlanta, which has been a great honor. Along with my wonderful team, we have done some enhancements to ensure that we're performing the best service for our citizens. One thing you'll notice is we've added a reception area to sort of better greet our constituents. What we've done, we work with the Office of Constituent Services to oversee the issuance of domestic partnerships that I didn't really believe were so popular. But we've received over 700 inquiries from our Atlanta residents and employees who are interested in domestic partnership certificates. We issued about 67 certificates. We've also provided guidance to many of the DeKalb residents who want to become part of the city of Atlanta. And so we work very closely with them, guiding them through the process. And through that, we've completed about 400, helped our residents complete about 400 annexations, and then welcomed 100 property owners into the city of Atlanta corporate limits. We've also, last year, we worked with the procurement office to implement a DocuSign process for contracts under $100,000, so we expedite the process of getting goods to the city, and that's worked very well. Now we've started implementing a paperless certification process for the many individuals in the public sector, from attorneys to residents who want certification of documents. We've saved them time and effort by providing this information electronically. And what we're working on through 2026 is we're working to train our staff to become best in the industry. We've recently signed on to the National Association of Government Archives and Record Administration to ensure that many of our staff are trained and equipped about the the best retention policies around the country. And so we can adopt those for the city of Atlanta, which is a premier city. And as you know, the Office of the Municipal Clerk is the record retention. We are responsible to preserve the historical record of the city of Atlanta. We've also implemented a cross-training of staff. Different staff are performing different functions. You may see at the council meeting that we have different staff, this is part of just continuity of the office. Should someone get sick and life happens, or people are on vacation, we want to make sure that someone can step in right away. This is also good for succession. When people are going to leave, many of us are getting up there. We make sure the office can proceed seamlessly. And also, it varies the task that our team has to perform to make the job more interesting. So we've been doing that, and that's been very successful. Lastly, we recently implemented a new pilot program. You may have heard me talk previously about BASE. I'm very passionate about BASE because I really feel that it's the one opportunity we have to engage our citizens into government. And we all work government for the citizens, and I really think it's important to bring them in. So we put some effort on trying to straighten our BASE process, and we have begin a pilot program. Is once we have a quorum of members who have been appointed by council members, and we're sending out these notices, we're imploring with you every month to please nominate or appoint these individuals. Believe it or not, we get a lot of residents who are very interested in serving. And what we're doing is now, when we have a quorum, we're convening the first meeting along with my team, Mr. Conway, who's the parliamentarian, and Mr. Sean Brown, who is the administrator for our base. We're explaining to them the legislation that created the base, and Mr. Conway's helping them to develop the bylaws. So we kicked this off with the AI commission, and that went very well. And after we kicked that off at the AI Commission, we received a couple of calls from other bases who says, hey, can you help me develop my bylaws? So we think that's going to be great success, and we're looking forward to developing that and getting our citizens more involved in government. We also have distributed for your review some stats from our office showing our organization of our office. We have sort of realigned our staff to sort of give more autonomy and direction and more responsibility to individual staff members and ownership of certain responsibilities that have been, that the charter assigns to the municipal clerk office. So we thank you so much for all the support that you've given the Office of Municipal Clerk, and look forward to that continued support. I do want to say that we have saved you $4 million because we will not have to pay for an election this year. Thank goodness for the Public Service Commission election. So the city of Atlanta is getting a freebie. If you want to find some other way to spend that, we can talk about it. Thank you.
Next, I will cover the City Council's headcount. Our headcount stands at 54, comprising 16 elected officials, 26 council staff positions, and 13 municipal clerk positions. As of today, we have 8 vacancies, 5 within council staff, and 3 in the clerk's office. The data that you see was current as of February the 6th. Our average vacancy rate is 14.81% based on 8 vacancies, not 9 vacancies. This vacancy count does not include 3 positions that are proposed for abolishment in fiscal year 26, a graphic arts specialist, a legislative compliance manager, and one of our extra assistant deputy municipal clerk positions. With these adjustments, our total headcount will be reduced to 51, bringing the vacancy rate to 9.81%. The proposed FY26 budget equals totals $12,325,717 and includes 20 call centers covering 16 elected officials and operational areas such as the Office of the Municipal Clerk, council staff, including the research and policy, business support services teams, shared services, and communication. The budget reflects a variance of $741,000, a reduction of approximately 6%. This is primarily attributed to fiscal year-end closeouts, carry forward true-ups, and the conclusion of the quadrennial election cycle. The 2026 proposed budget breakdown by major categories that you see listed. Our personnel and employee benefits is $9,556,620, representing 77% of the total budget. Other costs, which includes the proposed carry forward, is $1,610,080, accounting for 13% of the budget. Purchase contracted services and supplies is $1,147,442, making up 9% of the budget. Our FY26 funding allocations for salaries, permanent, part-time is funded, or yours are funded at $237,000, reflecting a 15% increase over the last 3 fiscal years. Your expense accounts are funded at $71,000, marking a 61% increase up from $43,000 in fiscal year 2022. This concludes our presentation. We appreciate your time and are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I want to acknowledge that we've also been joined by Council President Shipman. So I will now thank you for the presentation and thank you for the additional detail in the numbers. I think when you see the numbers, it's really quite eye-popping in terms of the level of activity and service that y'all provide. So I appreciate that. Any questions from folks? Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. First and foremost, thank you for looking forward and going into, I forget the exact words, but taking our teams from part-time to full-time. I know that is something I have really looked forward to, so thank you. I think it was new and improved things for FY26, so thank you for taking that challenge on. First question is, I see your deputy position is still vacant. What's the game plan on getting that filled?
The intent was for it to already be filled. However, I will say, I consider myself no different than any other individual that works for the city of Atlanta. There are several of us that take on more than one job and routinely do it. And it is a priority of mine. However, your priorities have trumped that. And the priorities of my team have trumped that, and just trying to balance that. However, council member, I am working with DHR. The position is in the budget. It is funded. There is a job description for it. It just takes me getting it over to DHR and to COO Burks for the Vacancy Review Board approval.
Thank you. And then for clarification, because I know, thank you to the clerk for saving us $4 million, but surely you did not say we had it somewhere laying around, we could spend it someplace else. So just want to clear that up. But thank you, both of you, to you and your team for definitely making the lives of District 3 easier as we go out and serve the district. And I know the rest of my colleagues will chime in and say the same thing. You do a wonderful job. And just thank you for looking toward the future, for doing what we can do better for our teams. Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else, I've got a couple of questions. I want to ask the staffing level in terms of the vacant positions, even with the 3 abolishments, those are all funded vacant positions though, correct?
No, all of them aren't funded. The only funded vacant position is our deputy position.
Okay.
What you will notice is, or if you were to have a complete breakdown of some of the offices, for instance, my communications budget is overrun. And why? Because we've hired an individual and made purchases that were not originally funded in fiscal year 25. So those positions are not funded. The only vacancy that's funded is the deputy position.
Okay. Okay. So all right. So this will be a theme for the next session in terms of personnel paper and the abolishments of the, how we address the unfunded vacant positions, especially as we go into a time of uncertainty and recommended austerity. I mean, I will say y'all are in a different, or we, because we're all kind of part of the same team here, in a different position because we're one of only two departments this year that is projecting a reduction in budget. So I appreciate that piece of it. But yeah, I think at some point we may continue to look at those unfunded vacant positions and see if there are personnel actions we should take, because we always have the ability to come back and create and fund positions as we go. I wanted to talk about the budget line items for a second too, though. And this is probably for finance, but we're probably one of the only departments where the pension expenses and benefits, other benefits are decreasing. What's the dynamic that's happening for us that's not happening for other departments?
Mohammed Ball, I'd have to take a little deep, but it might be the composition of how many staff that you might have in the combination of the retirement staff and composition of full-time versus part-time staff in a specific department might have some indication into it. And also if more of a department staff is in a DC plan versus the hybrid plan, that also has some direction to it, but we could take a deeper dive.
Yeah, because that kind of does jump out. Again, we've been seeing other departments that have significant increases, and yet we're going the opposite direction. So I just didn't know what was happening there. And the second is that we also have the dynamic of it. I'm assuming that you mentioned the council member expense accounts. There are a number that are spending down pretty quickly this year just because of end of term. Is that?
Yes, that's what has been noticed. But finance, of course, is committed at the end of fiscal year 25. Anything that remains from your personnel, your expense, your carry forward, your distribution accounts rolls over.
Okay.
Of course, they do not close out the year with the auditors until I believe it's end of July, in mid-August, and then they're still running final numbers. Our plan is to have the carry forward legislation introduced for true-up no later than mid-September and adopted by mid-October.
Okay.
Adopted and funds actually appropriated by mid-October.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just, we are also a department where the level of activity is not dropping. I mean, in fact, would probably increase a little bit with transition of council offices as well as just the business of the city. I mean, you know, the clerk talked about you being the records repository. So if you were to take that piece out, we actually are flat in terms of budget requests with increasing activity. So I appreciate the frugality there, but I will also just say make sure y'all are adequately resourced because, you know, well, selfishly, we want to make sure we're all being able to serve our constituents effectively, and y'all are a key component of that. So to the extent that there are needs that may not necessarily be funded, you need to keep us posted on that. Any other questions or comments? I mean, I think finally, just kind of in closeout, y'all take very good care of us and the city. And for that, we thank you because it allows us to focus on policy. It allows us to focus on constituents. It allows us to focus on big issues and not have to be distracted by kind of the engine of what makes our operations work. And, you know, I appreciate the collaboration and cooperation between your two offices. Again, whatever y'all end up needing, yeah, just let us know. So, anything else from y'all?
No, thank you. We appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, I don't have my glasses on, so HR folks for the personnel paper aren't in here. So to the extent that they are listening to the hearings, we are ready for you at any time.
Okay.
If you want to come down early and get started before 2, we would absolutely welcome that. So,
I'll check with them.
okay, until such time, we'll stand in recess.
Are you running the, what are you going to do? Just looking? What's really going on? Can we get two more? I want to make sure.
Just as we're going to get started at 2 because I know the departmental heads were asked to be here at 2, and that way, if we have questions, they'll be here for us. And then also, while we're just sitting here waiting, the way we generally run this is that they'll give their overview presentation. And then just continue down the line. So y'all can relax. We still have 3 minutes. It got too quiet in here.
Chuck's not here.
Right? Mr. Blackburn, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce your team as needed and then walk us through the presentation, and we'll get into the Q&A.
Thank you. Good afternoon to Vice Chair Juan, other members of the council. First of all, I'm Calvin Blackburn, Interim Commissioner for the Department of Human Resources. And before we get started, I want to take a moment to introduce just a small part of my stellar leadership team. To the far left of me is Merlandi Vincent, our compensation director. To my immediate left is April Weeks, budget director. To my right is Deputy Commissioner Jennifer Hicks. And again, thank you for allowing us to present today's fiscal year 26 personnel paper. The ordinance, this ordinance outlines proposed personnel actions across various departments. It reflects strategic citywide effort to align our workforce with operational needs and fiscal priorities. For this paper, departments were asked to take a critical look at their staffing structures with an emphasis on identifying positions that could be abolished, particularly those that have been vacant or are no longer essential to their operations. Ultimately, this paper is designed to help us operate more efficiently and continue the work of aligning the organization with the city's long-term goals. To support today's discussion and ensure any questions are addressed in real time, we've asked each department to have a representative present. As we move through each section, they will be available to respond to any questions or provide clarification as needed. So now let's take a deeper look into each department's proposed fiscal year 26 personnel actions. Next slide. Again, this is what we do for each paper, just provide a list of terminology so you understand what we mean when we refer to various actions. Next slide. Let me say about this slide, you will notice throughout the paper, we have referenced the previous classification titles and pay grades. DHR is currently in the process with assistance from Deloitte to transition the new classification titles and pay grades per ordinance 24-0-1304, and we'll be looking to do this in October of 2025. Next slide. So this slide represents in this paper that you'll be seeing the number of personnel actions. You will notice, well, it looks like we have 873 total actions there and 125 abolishments. So, yep. So again, 5 abolishment classifications, 125 abolishment positions, 9 class title amendments, creation of 25, creation classifications 25, employee salary adjustments 10, funding allocation 29, position transfer 225, reclassification with incumbent 233, reclassification without incumbent 101, and salary grade amendments 33, for a total number of personnel actions representing this paper of 873. Next slide. As part of our ongoing effort to align staffing levels with available fundings, departments were tasked with reviewing their unfunded vacancies to determine if additional abolishments that could be included in this current paper. The slide before you identifies these additional abolishments by department, which will be incorporated into substitute legislation for Wednesday's FEC meeting. As I go through each department, you will not see these additional abolishments in the total action count. We also want to note that approximately 107 positions were abolished through the mid-year personnel paper processed in March of this year. These efforts will have a direct impact on how we approach the FTE count for fiscal year 26. So again, looking at this slide, it's just important to note that though we represent in the earlier slide 125 abolishments, that when you add that number to the additional ones that we picked up before after this paper was produced, and add that to the mid-year abolishments, we're looking at a total of 325 abolishments of positions across the city. So now we'll turn.
Okay, before you go into each individual departments, I want to ask a couple of clarifying questions. So that 325, you said it also includes the mid-year adjustments that we did in, I guess, earlier in the year. So if you flip back to page 5, the abolishment position number of 125, that won't go to 325. It's going to go to something shorter of that, correct?
So the 125 plus the 93 abolishments we received yesterday from the departments, along with the 107, gives us the 325.
Okay, so, all right, so the one we see next Wednesday will be approximately 218 abolishments.
Correct. And we may have more than that. I've actually
Okay.
received word from other departments that they may have additional abolishments.
Okay. The other question I have is, I know that in the budget hearings by each department to date, they've presented that chart that has their filled positions, vacant positions, and total positions. So that number is obviously going to change dramatically with the actions that we're contemplating here. I had requested a breakout of those vacant positions being funded and unfunded. So I guess basically by Wednesday, we kind of need a redo of that chart for all of the departments to date. And then with there still will be vacant positions. The breakdown of funded and unfunded post this personnel paper. I expect that some departments should still have some unfunded vacant positions. That's okay. But I think this reset will really dramatically kind of improve our lens into what they're doing. Okay. I did also have a question about the reclassification. Well, let me back up. The class and comp actions. Are there any additional class and comp actions in the personnel paper we're going to see, or were those all taken care of in the mid-year personnel paper?
Yes, there were some items that were submitted for the mid-year paper that didn't get into that personnel paper, but they've been added to this paper.
Okay, and those will show up as we go through each department today as employee salary adjustment or reclassification, is that correct?
That would be the classification, creation,
So it's kind of everywhere then.
and salary grade amendment.
Okay, sorry, you said salary grade, creation, classification, creation, position, those?
Creation, classification, and abolishment, classification.
Oh, I see it, okay. So those are,
Oh, and title amendment, sorry, classification, title amendment.
okay. So 5, 9, 14, plus 25, 39, plus 33, 72. So 72 actions in this that are associated with class and comp, but most of them were done in the previous paper then.
They were supposed to be submitted with the mid-year paper, but they weren't.
Yeah.
So we're adding them
Okay.
to this paper.
But the bulk of them were?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that was my last question. Okay, all right. Any other just broad general questions to make sure we've got level set in terms of our understanding of the numbers we're going to be looking at? Okay, again, we'll go through each department. As you go through the department, we'll take questions on that department right away and just keep moving through each one. Great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Next slide. We'll start with the Atlanta City Council. The paper originally reported no actions, but I want to add that since then, we've added 3 additional abolishments. Any questions regarding Atlanta City Council? Next slide. For the Atlanta Department of Transportation, you see a total of 46 total actions. These actions reflect changing funding allocations for 21 positions based on job function and delivery of capital projects, 14 reclasses with incumbent to eliminate the field out of class designation and align resources more appropriately, 8 reclasses without incumbent transition from extra help to authorize full-time employment.
I have a question about this department. So I don't know if Commissioner is here. All right. First off, the funding allocation changes. Are we moving in or out? Where's generalization? Are we moving from general fund to capital, capital back to general?
It's moving to capital.
Wait a minute. Sorry. Touch the button here. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So Solomon Cavanagh, ATL DOT Commissioner. So we are taking full advantage of our capital program to fund so we can get delivery expedited. And we've done a number of abolishments to bring us to where we need to, the right direction.
So the funding allocation is out of general fund into capital fund. Is that correct?
Yes, and we've reprioritized capital over general.
Okay. And then there will be, I'm assuming Wednesday we'll see your abolishment numbers show up in that paper.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions for transportation? Okay.
Yeah, and if I can mention, in our mid-year, we abolished 88 positions. So we went down from around 92 down to 43% vacancy rate. And you'll see an additional reduction next week.
Thank you. Any other questions for Commissioner Kappas? Okay, let's keep going.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Atlanta Information Management. Originally, the slide reflects a total of 9 actions, 5 with employee salary adjustment, 1 position transfer, and 3 reclassifications with incumbent. The 5 employee salary adjustments were done to ensure alignment with fair market value. The reclass with incumbents is due to expanded responsibilities and to maintain consistency with peer group classifications. I'm pleased to announce that since this went to press, AIM has provided another 21 position abolishments. Any questions regarding AIM?
Commissioner, I did it again. Councilmember Collins.
Just for clarity, these positions are vacant unfunded or just positions that the department just has? Yeah, I mean, are they vacant unfunded? Are these actual people? Just a little bit more detail.
Good afternoon, Jason Sankey, Chief Information Officer for the City of Atlanta. These positions, the 9 total, are positions that are active and filled. The remaining 21 were unfunded.
Okay.
Any additional questions concerning AIM? Seeing none, next slide. No actions for audit. Next slide. Next is aviation, total of 103 actions, 3 abolishments of classification, 1 class title amendment, 4 creation classifications, 50 position creations, employment salary adjustments of 3, and position transfers 7, reclassifications with incumbent 23, classification without incumbent 6, salary grade amendment 6, for a total of 103. Just for background, these position creations are mostly to convert extra help with benefits that are mission critical positions in a 24/7 operation that are currently budgeted. Also, the reclass with and without incumbent were done for true alignment of current duties and responsibilities due to reorganization or restructuring of the divisions in the enterprise. This is aviation.
So the GM mentioned in his budget presentation the other day that there's a restructuring going on, and I just want to confirm that he did say that there would be some of it will be shifting people internally, but then some would be actually adding new positions and all that. I'm assuming we're going to see those in the mid-year personnel paper, that they're not captured or reflected in this one right now. Is that correct?
Council Ricky Smith, General Manager, Department of Aviation. Yeah, most of the positions that will be included in the reorganization are reflected in this request.
Yep, okay. And then, but is it fair to anticipate that the mid-year one will probably have more actions from you as that reorganization continues?
That is correct.
Okay. And colleagues, just, I don't know if y'all were here yesterday for us, but I had forgotten that all of their positions are actually funded. So he does not have any unfunded vacant positions, I think, which is why we're not going to see abolishments necessarily. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, next slide, please. Citizens Review Board, total of 3 actions. Primarily, there's a position creation for a community affairs manager, position creation for an administrative assistant 2, and 1 reclass with incumbent to support the increase in workload for the Citizens Review Board. Any questions regarding Citizens Review? Seeing none, thank you. Next slide. City Planning. On this slide, we indicate 75 actions, 4 position abolishments on behalf of the Department of Labor, total of 21 position transfers. City Planning is also transferring positions on the behalf of the Department of Labor, and we had some reclasses with and without incumbent to address increased duties and responsibilities. Also happy to report that since the publication of this document, City Planning has added 17 additional abolishments. Any questions concerning city planning? Next slide, please.
Well, but
I'm sorry.
Position transfer, sorry. Oh, to funds. Okay, never mind. We got it. Please proceed, sorry.
Next slide, please. Department of Corrections. Total of 8 positions created to transition extra help staff into permanent positions. You also notice a reclassification with incumbent and a salary grade amendment for a total of 10 actions. Since publication of this paper, Corrections has added 2 additional abolishments. Any questions? Seeing none, next slide. Customer service. You'll notice 19 actions in customer service, all abolishments. These were done to reduce unnecessary headcount, lower personnel costs, and strengthen the financial sustainability of DCS ATL 311. Since publication of the paper, they've added 1 additional abolishment for a grand total of 20 for customer service. Not seeing any questions. Next slide. Enterprise asset management, a total of 40 actions, 36 of those 40 are abolishments of position. Any questions regarding Dean? Next slide, please. Ethics had 3 total actions. These are reclasses with incumbent, and these are due to growth in duties and responsibilities over the last year. So 3 total actions for ethics. Next slide. Executive offices. Executive offices had 58 total actions. 31 were position transfers to align positions to an appropriate department organization. Then we had a few reclass with and without incumbent to update position titles and reorganizations. 58 total actions, 8 reclass with incumbent, 9 without incumbent. Executive offices.
I have a question about this one. Position transfers, what more, are we moving positions out to the departments, or are we moving the positions from the departments into executive offices?
Make sure our chief of staff was not in here, I'm sorry.
Okay.
LaShondra Burks, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. The 31 position transfers are actually moving employees into a correct funding stream, which is actually, most of these are going to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
So why are they showing up as funding allocation changes?
I want to ask our finance team.
So we need a question.
So, yeah, she said the position transfers were moving most of them over to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So why are they not a funding allocation change versus a position transfer, or potentially both?
Councilmember Juan, I can answer that question for you right here.
Oh, sorry.
I can answer that question. So a position transfer is fund to fund or department org to department org. When you do funding allocation, that means you want to split fund the position.
Okay.
So they're not split funding the position in multiple funds. They are just transferring it over. So it's considered a position transfer.
Okay. And then are we anticipating any more abolishments coming from executive offices?
We should have some coming from executive offices before next Wednesday.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Westmoreland.
Indeed. How many of the 31 are going to be coming from the Housing Trust Fund?
You know the answer.
How many of them are coming from or to?
No, they're going to. And is there a dollar amount?
That's my follow-up.
Yeah.
Wait, we're literally counting that right now. 1 second.
It looks like about 15 positions.
It would be helpful to know that dollar amount at some point. Thank you.
What about the other 16 then?
It looks as if they're just moving from department orgs, so from the chief operating officer over to the Office of Equity and Diversity. So they're just moving positions from one department org to another.
Other questions from my colleagues on executive offices? Okay, so we just have one outstanding question.
So,
Point. I hear.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Yolanda Carr, Department of Finance, as far as with the positions, as HR mentioned in the COO, they are moving to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that's around $2 million initially for those positions that are moving over to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But we can make sure that we work as a team together with HR to provide additional information.
When you say initially, why the qualifier?
Oh, I'm not for sure. I just use that word.
Okay.
It just sounded good at the moment. So.
Okay, other questions for executive offices? Council President.
In FY25, was the Affordable Housing Trust Fund paying for any headcount?
I actually don't have the answer to that. I would have to kind of work with the department as well as finance to see.
I don't know if COO Burks might know.
Not my division, so I'm not sure, but we will definitely
Okay.
get the answer back to you.
Does finance happen to know the Housing Trust Fund was carrying FTEs in 25?
We can find that information out. I know that number has changed, and so we can determine what was in 25 versus what we have in 26. So we'll be able to provide that information to you. Yeah.
I have Mr. Evans make a note of that as an outstanding question on this department. Anything else? Okay.
We'll make sure we get the first answer confirmed and the answer to the second one to you before Wednesday.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. These are the personnel actions for finance, total of 52 actions, 9 class creations, 18 reclasses with incumbent to align for staff work responsibilities, 17 reclasses without incumbent to ensure staff's roles and responsibilities accurately reflect their prospective roles and job duties. There were 2 abolishment positions indicated on the paper. Since then, we have been made aware of another 2, so a total of 4 abolishments for finance.
Can I get more information on the transfers in this one as well? Is this just, again, funding or something different? Mr. Moses, do you know the answer?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Wan. The transfers are transferring internal positions within our offices between various offices.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm good.
Seeing no other questions, next slide. For fire, total of 58 actions, 53 position transfers, again, done to align resources more appropriately. Reclass with incumbent to assist with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Technical Service Division. And then there are 4 reclasses without incumbent to assist with the Atlanta Fire staffing levels and support services, technical and downtown operations. You'll note there were no abolishments in the original paper we presented, but since then we are been made aware of 18 abolishments for fire.
Any questions?
Next slide, please. There are no actions for grants and community service. Next slide. For human resources, we had a total of 17 actions. Included among those were class creations to establish needed position titles, reclasses to address administrative changes. We had 5 position abolishments at the time of printing, and since then, we found 3 more for a total of 8 position abolishments. Next slide. Inspector General, no actions. Next slide. Judicial agencies, thank you. Total of 5 actions, again, reclasses with incumbent to, again, align positions that, properly suit the needs of the department, reclasses without incumbent. Again, this was done to fulfill the mayor's mandatory initiative to provide 24-hour service in the warrants division of the municipal court. 5 total actions for judicial agencies. Seeing no questions, we'll move to labor. Next slide. Labor has 7 actions: 1 abolishment of position, 3 classification creations to align labor positions more effectively, and 3 reclasses without incumbent to the newly created classifications to better align with the mayor's vision. 7 total actions for labor. Department of Law. Next slide. Thank you. 15 actions for the Department of Law. 3 funding allocations, reclasses with and without incumbent to reflect additional responsibilities, and 1 position abolishment. 15 actions for the Department of Law. Next slide. Parks and Recreation. 153 actions. 4 position creations to support the Office of Park Planning and Design, City Golf, and the William Walker Recreation Center. 142 position transfers, transferring from the general fund to the millage fund, and 7 position abolishments. Again, for a grand total of 153 actions in Parks and Recreation.
Councilmember Hillis.
Given the high number of position transfers to the millage fund, I would like a monetary number on that. What does that amount to?
$9.2 million.
And what is the kind of, what will those positions be tasked with that kind of fit into the millage fund of parks improvements?
Yes, so they're all a range of forestry, tree trimmers, gardeners, arborists, park workers, construction park workers, and seasonal positions.
All right.
So it's all supporting park maintenance.
Understood. And then just request a list of those at your convenience.
Great. Yep.
Thank you.
Are there, Council President, I'm just gonna, is the 7 abolishments, are there any more coming? Or is the shift, well, I'll start with that question and then I'll move to my next question. Are there any more abolishments other than the 7 that we're seeing in the current personnel paper coming on Wednesday?
No.
Okay, and so that table that I've asked for in terms of the unfunded vacant positions still in this, and even with the transfers out, I think will be informative on Wednesday before we get the substitute. Council President.
Commissioner, could you just remind us what the anticipated millage fund is for FY26? So it's $9 million out of, what's the denominator?
Yeah, so it's $40 million that we're projecting for fiscal year 26. 50% of that goes to park capital maintenance, 40% to park maintenance, 5% to park security, 5% to recreation and administration.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to voice a little bit of concern here. I want to say my intent with the parks millage was more about projects than necessarily just your regular maintenance and operational staff and finding a place to fund them. So I agree with Councilmember Hillis. I think that between now and Wednesday, we'll dive a little deeper into kind of the positions that I'm seeing here in the personnel paper and the understanding the strategy. So just, I'll send that signal. Conversation we'll need to have before Wednesday.
Great, thank you.
Other questions from my colleagues?
I don't serve on FEC, but I'll
come on down.
Second that concern as it relates to the Housing Trust Fund.
You'll third that concern.
All right, so Housing Trust Fund and Park Millage are two that, some flags that are going up by my colleagues.
And Mr. Vice Chair, just if I may, request the current balance of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as well?
Okay, Finance received that? Yep. Mr. Evans, you prefer this?
We will provide that information. Thank you.
Other questions while we're here on Parks and Rec? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. Police. Police had a total of 14 actions. 13 of those were reclasses without incumbent to accommodate the movement of field extra help to authorize FTE positions. There was also a reclass, one with incumbent from customer service representative to police validation specialist to allow the removal of a field out of class issue. 14 actions for police.
Questions? Okay.
Next slide, procurement. Procurement had 120 actions. 68 were reclassifications with incumbent, and we had 3 position creations, 49 position abolishments. Again, a total of 120 actions for procurement.
Did you have a question, Mr. Hillis? No, I did, given the large number of reclassification with incumbents, if someone could provide, it doesn't even need to be now, but between now and Wednesday, those actions, reclassification with salary increases versus those that just remained lateral.
So we have only 2 that, I'm sorry, Shawanda Freeman, Department of Procurement. We have 2 employees with salary increases. The other ones will be just straight lateral.
Okay. Also, though, I do, as I'm glancing through this very quickly, while their salaries may not change, the grade or the salary range does. So that is a number I'm looking for as well.
So based on the comp and class study, those will change, but we did keep those positions from reclass to the same pay.
To the same, sorry, the same pay?
With the same pay.
Okay. Yeah, again, if I could just get, of the 68, how many of the positions, not the current salary, but the position ranges are moving up? If it's all of them, it's all of them. I just wanted to know. Some of them look like they're flat.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding procurement? Seeing none, next slide. Public defender, a total of 4 actions. These 4 actions were reclasses without incumbent due to a reorganization to allow field extra help positions to move to FTE. 4 actions total for public defender. Next slide. Public Works. Public Works has a total listed of 18 actions. These were reclasses with and without incumbent to align employees and positions to the appropriate job titles, and 1 position stand transfer. Since publication of this paper, we've been made aware of 15 abolishments, position abolishments. So 18 plus 15, I can't do the math, is at 33 total actions ultimately, I believe we're anticipating for Public Works. Seeing no questions, next slide. Solicitor's Office, 17 total actions, reclass with incumbents to consolidate the judicial operations and business services and to support the mayor's safe and secure housing initiative. Also, there were class title amendments due to nomenclature changes. These were done to most accurately reflect the classification, the responsibilities and classifications. There is a note. The substitute will remove the 1 position abolishment and the 9 reclasses with incumbents, which are no longer necessary. Any questions regarding Solicitor's Office? Seeing none, next slide. Watershed. Total of 85 actions for the Department of Watershed. These include 40 reclassifications with incumbent, 11 without incumbent. The reclasses, well, I mentioned that already, salary grade amendments to correct discrepancies in the official classification and compensation pay plan, and 1 abolishment. Since publication, we've added an additional 11 abolishments to watershed for a total of 12 position abolishments. Questions about watershed? Next slide. I think that was our last slide, and that concludes our presentation. Fiscal year 26 personnel paper. We welcome any questions.
So procedurally, when can we expect to get kind of everything updated in terms of the personnel book, the tables, all that? We have it. I know we got a holiday coming up. She's looking at me like, but when do you think reasonably, without you having to burn the midnight oil on this?
Well, we'll start working on everything today and tomorrow. So we should have something early Tuesday.
Okay.
Of course, we'll make sure the commissioner and the COO take a look at everything and make sure we've included everything from all the departments. We'll also be able to, we'll have to work with the departments to get that unfunded number and funded number for you. Actually, we don't actually have that information in HR, so each department will have to provide that information to us. So we'll get an email communication out to them so they can start sending us that information as quickly as possible to build that information out for you.
Okay.
So I'll say around Tuesday, close of business.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I appreciate the scrubbing exercise that's gone on over the last couple of days regarding those positions. Are we anticipating any other second wave of fine tuning or cleanup? Actually, let me back up a second. To the finance department, any indications of significant budget amendments that will also have an impact on the personnel paper that we haven't discussed yet?
Not at this time that we were made aware of.
Okay, all right. So are we anticipating another scrub or another wave of changes between Wednesday and June 2nd when we are aiming for approving the budget at this point?
I'm actually aiming for this substitute on Wednesday to be the final one,
Good.
yes.
Glad to hear
And we will also have to you the famous Shook report on Wednesday, the year-over-year headcount information. So that'll be provided to you all on Wednesday as well.
Okay, the Shook report. Councilmember Collins.
Yes, well, also what would be good in that report is, and I mean, I know this is my first time, so I don't know if it's in there, but the number of positions that are vacant unfunded and then those that are actual, you know, though, I think, and it wasn't a target to aim. I just had the question, which is why I wanted to hold on, but just also understanding how many actual people or active roles are part of this process. Just, you know, thinking about the times that we're in, also want to at least acknowledge and make sure that, just at least acknowledge and make sure about people that may potentially lose jobs and things of that nature. So that would be good to understand the number of vacant unfunded positions that are looped into all of this. I also think it helps us better with a narrative as we, through this process. Each department has requested an increase, but we also are seeing this massive number of total actions. And so understanding where these positions are unfunded has no implications on what you all are actually asking in your, in terms of your budget increase. And that's just, not just this department, but that would just help me be able to articulate it more. And then the second piece, I think this may be for Department of Finance, understanding more the funds for the different, what I'll call like special revenue streams that we have, right? Like, we just have questions about the Affordable Housing Fund. In the book, there are all these different type of funds that are not wrapped into the general fund. So I do think it's important for us to understand what are those dollar amounts? What are the implications in terms of head count? How are we spending the money in those, how are we spending the money really? Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead of it, but I do think it's important for us to understand, well, for these dedicated dollars or funds that have been created, what is the actual investment that we need to make in terms of an employee head count space, which also helps us be able to articulate the narrative of the services that those funds are have been created to resolve. So like for the Affordable Housing Fund, you know, if there's questions about, well, why are we using those funds to fund actual positions when the Affordable Housing Fund was created to address truly affordable housing? Having that information and dialogue and understanding the inner workings of it helps us better to communicate on a larger scale, that it's just not the dollar amount or capital, but you have to have people to move this work forward to have the outcome that we want to see. So I just use the Affordable Housing Fund as an example, but I'm thinking about like the water something fund, the aviation something. It's a lot of funds that's not tied to the general fund. So that would be great as well. We can get that information.
Sure, and we appreciate that comment, because to your point, we are $2 billion as far as with our operating funds. We have the general fund, we have aviation, we have watershed, we have solid waste. In addition to that, we have a lot of capital funds that are noted in the back of our budget book. We also have a ton of trust funds, so we're happy to provide that information to make sure that that is shared, that we have in our budget book. But I also believe that I just saw our chief policy officer, don't mean to put you on the spot, but he walked in, and I know you had some questions about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that, you know, he may be able to share additional information as well.
Come on down.
Yes.
I really just walked in the room asking if y'all got my lunch, but apparently no. Thank you. Yeah, happy to answer what questions I can answer, if helpful.
Well, my question, I'll just say my question was it's just not the Affordable Housing Fund. It is all of our funds. I just kind of loop it in this bucket. So, you know, what came from the presentation was the fact that a couple of positions will be funded through the Affordable Housing Fund, rolling off of the general fund, rolling off the general fund. So it just kind of alerted people to say, okay, well, why are we moving in that way? And so that was just an example, but I know my request is all of them, like what positions are we funding using all of the funds, special revenue funds that we have?
What I can say, if I may, about the finance and HR, I'm sure can answer the details of it. What I think is important that you know is that any true accounting of what we spend, at least on affordable housing, has to go beyond the general fund and the trust fund specifically. When the mayor created the Affordable Housing Strike Force, we essentially created a body that allows us to increase coordination, increase implementation and deployment of funds. And so between January 1 of this year and the end of FY2026 of next year, the amount of money that the city, Big C, or that the strike force, I should say more specifically, will spend on affordable housing is well over $750 million. And the coordination of that work in no small part is due to the team here at City Hall that has built really an incredible machine to drive that work forward. And so in addition to that large sum, we also made the decision to draw down on the other $50 million from HOB2, the Affordable Housing Bond. And so there's additional debt service in the trust fund, but it leverages $50 million. And so we're spending 5 to get 50 and continue programs. But that just gives you a broad, a simple snapshot that I can't speak to, who's in what. I'll let finance and HR do that. But I do want you to know that, that $750 million is a real number. It's projected to produce about 5,000 additional affordable housing units, as well as, our ongoing efforts around preservation and Black remediation. So.
Yeah. And finance will provide a listing of all the funds and the FTEs associated with that fund. So thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't directed to you, but I'm going to lean into this a little bit. I mean, I think that's the tug here, is that we create these trust funds, Housing Affordable Trust Fund, the Parks Fund, and I think while we recognize that, yes, it takes some level of human effort to coordinate things, it's a precious commodity, so that every dollar that we spend on that means a dollar that isn't going to specific programming, investment, housing, a piece of equipment at a park. And so I think that's the friction that you're sensing, that y'all, the administration, is sensing from us, is that what's that balance? Is debt service what we intended when we created and set money aside for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? I think that's a policy conversation we should be having. And at what point are these not affordable, but just the trust funds being used as a balanced budget balancing tool, to coin a phrase that one of my colleagues has used. That's what we as the budgeting arm of the government, really, these are the questions we should be asking. And so I think when we get these reports from finance, I think that'll be the conversation we should have. Is this in keeping with what our original intent was, and what are the other options? And so, again, I think it's more of a philosophical approach than it is specifically around.
I will take every dollar y'all give me to build a preserve housing. 20,000 units over an 8-year period represents about a $7 billion problem. And so, I would love to have a deeper conversation about, one, what we're already doing, what we have done to get there. We do not have enough resources, but I just wanted to give you all the broader context around what, at least how we have tried to leverage the resources of people to get at, what's essentially a $750 million investment in, an 18-month period. And so I look forward to that policy conversation. I will take every dollar I can get. I'm biased though, and so I look forward to engaging in that conversation.
Yeah, Council President.
Yeah, there was a question. You might have the number off the top of your head. If not, we'll get it as we go forward. Was there the trust fund money used this year in FY25 for FTE support?
That is a question best directed at finance.
Okay, that's fine. The only comment that I would make, just to weigh in on this, Vice Chair Wan, is that in essence, there's a difference between paying out of a general fund and paying out of a revenue stream like a trust fund, because in essence, FTEs become all basically permanent. And when you make them permanent, they become much more difficult to take out, as opposed to programmatic, which you say, this program has a time frame, this program has a deadline, et cetera. And so I think we have to be thoughtful about where we put FTEs into funds, because in essence, they become permanent. And so instead of 19 million a year, it's really 17 million a year plus the 2 million for the people that we have, that we committed to. So I think that's part of what's going on here too. And I would also say, just on these two, which have come up, and I'm sure there are others, in my mind, there's a difference between the permanence of people in parks, because the park maintenance is such a specific item, as opposed to affordable housing, which is an ongoing programmatic investment. Those are two different structural kinds of things, and I might end up in different places on each of them, or certainly my considerations would be different. So that's my only comment. Thanks, Mr. English.
Yeah, and I know that CFO Bala wanted to comment on this as well.
Yeah, just wanted to orient some of the discussions around Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I know it's garnered some conversations today. Should have probably been all directed towards the finance office and not Mr. English. But one thing to orient everybody around is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is funded by general funds. It is not a separate, distinct funding. So when we talk about balancing approach, the original source of funding is the general fund. So it's all interconnected from sources of fundings. And our general fund allocations to revenue are split up between primarily property tax, local option sales tax, and then everything after that that's in the general fund is essentially regulatory charges or other types of fees that cover the cost of what they're supposed to cover. So, we're spending a lot more in affordable housing than just what's allocated to the trust fund. We are spending it in a non-departmental. We are spending it in increased staff that is needed to keep up with the pace of the government around affordable housing. So even in the last couple of years since we've enacted the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we've added a bunch of positions throughout the system to deal with affordable housing and affordable housing platforms, which unlocked hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to go towards affordable housing in these initiatives. I mean, this is an area where we haven't invested this much in generations. And it's been doing primarily using the trust fund too as a leveraging tool to be able to allow us to get there. Again, back to the source of funding. The source of funding is the general fund. It gets allocated in the beginning to non-departmental and it shifts out to the trust fund. Very different than parks and other types of activities, but it is there to support all of the affordable housing work of the city of Atlanta. So as long as the work that's being supported by the trust fund is for affordable housing, it is a viable and needed and well worth investment in utilizing.
Yeah, I think I acknowledge, I think we all understand that there is a certain level of salary and staffing that needs to happen. I think at some point, though, every dollar that's spent there within the fund means a dollar is being displaced that could go to specific programmatic application. I think that's the dynamic.
That is the dynamic, and it's also the dynamic why the charter in its construct has limitations of how much affordable housing trust fund should be allocated up to that 2% in good times. So when it's bad times and it's times of difficulty and times of uncertainty, the charter is written is that you're not even supposed to fund it or fund it at a lesser amount so that you can take care of the general activities of the government first.
Yeah, I don't want to fixate on this particular fund because we're having the same dynamic in terms of like the tree protection ordinance and how much of that money is going to pay for people versus actual trees. So it's consistent across all our funds.
The only difference is that recompense charge is paid from a source that's not the general fund.
Yeah, fair. Again, it's when we set up these funds, we have an intent, and we're just trying to honor that intent, understanding that dynamic you mentioned. So again, I think to finance, if we get that report of understanding what FTEs are being charged to which of these funds, I think that will be the basis of the next conversation we have around this. And Councilmember Bakhtiari, I think that's going to get to your ultimate question regarding which positions in the executive office are being funded by the Affordable Trust Fund. Okay.
Sorry, my button was under a stack of paperwork. Correct, and I do appreciate Council President asking the question and CFO Bala's response. Yes, and so just understanding and hopefully getting a line-by-line breakdown. I know that the council has expressed interest in getting that information to have a better understanding, again, so that we can better do our due diligence.
Yep. All right. Other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Collins and then Councilmember Shipman.
Yes. So not trying to beat this, period, like really, but really in terms of just understanding and thinking about CFO's response, where do we capture that? Like what, sir, what you're saying that is in the general fund, where? Like what department, looking at the pie chart, looking at the breakdown, where would if someone was to ask me about our investments in the Affordable Housing Fund, how do I find that information and articulate that? I understand the big investments and I understand the long-term strategy and sustainability efforts, but when we're just talking about in terms of being able to just communicate that information, where would I find that?
Sure. Within the general fund, you would find that in non-departmental. That is where the original sources of affordable housing work starts. And then from non-departmental, a portion is transferred over to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And that happens on an annual basis based on what's allocated during the budget process. In non-departmental, the affordable housing work that's paid out of non-departmental is generally to support debt issuances, debt service, borrowed money to construct affordable housing projects through the economic development arm, Invest Atlanta. Outside the general fund, there's significant investments that are made by Atlanta Housing Authority, by Invest Atlanta, by others who are ultimately backstopped by the city of Atlanta. So there's a whole complex ecosystem around affordable housing, But if you wanted to talk about the roughly $40 million or so that is put into this general fund, it's in non-departmental, it's in Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and it's in people. And these people have been added since this work has been fast-tracked and fast-forwarded. These aren't positions that were here in government prior to these initiatives. These initiatives are worthwhile, and many of you have been at the ribbon cuttings, and many of you have been in different places to see the transformative work that's happened and taken place. So again, it's throughout the constructs of government, but primarily non-departmental and some in personnel and departments.
Okay, yeah, so I'll let it be at this point. I want to send them, I do want to send a message that, no, we're not pushing against the integrity and purpose of this work, because we all know it's extremely important. But as we see just my short time here, every council meeting, there's a question from us and a criticism to us about the investments in whether it is affordable housing or, like you said, the tree protection fund, all of these key pieces. So I think what will be good, like I said, what will be good just to understand what is the revenue that is earmarked for those pieces, head count, so we can support the administration in the narrative of pushing these through. So looking at the non-departmental budget from the general fund book, there's I guess this will come out of the other cost line item that's approximately 32.5 million. Would that be?
Correct. And
Okay.
other financing uses, that's about
Yes.
30-something million.
Yep. So other cost is 32.5 and other financing is 28. So Affordable Housing Trust, the 3 million to Invest Atlanta, and some of those other pieces come out of these line items.
Correct. Which
Okay.
is roughly about
About
30
60 million
Yeah.
combined. Yeah, about 60 million. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, anything else on these positions, the funds funded position? All right, Council President Shipman had a different question.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner, we're now seeing that some departments are eliminating a lot of unfunded positions, some are eliminating some unfunded positions. Seems as if some departments are not necessarily eliminating as many unfunded positions. Just a broad question for the public. Why have unfunded positions authorized in the budget process?
Why are they authorized?
Why have unfunded positions authorized? Why not just have only funded positions authorized? Why carry unfunded positions as an approach to the budget?
I understand your question, and I'm gonna, DC Hicks, do you have a response to that?
I can respond to it. Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll say, being a newbie to the city, I've been here about 7 years. And so what I've always been told when it comes to unfunded positions, because I would say years prior, it was always very hard to create a position. We had to go through a lot of red tape. And so department heads, commissioners, they did not want to go through that entire process of eliminating a unfunded position when they could just ask between the mid-year, like, hey, can we get funding added to that position? And so that was always the practice here at the City of Atlanta. There is no written policy of why we keep unfunded positions, because unfunded positions, it's hard for us to even see them on the position report. We don't have categories that say unfunded and funded. And so for Director Weeks, I'm sure she's smiling, but it's a nightmare for us to go through and really understand what's funded and what's unfunded. We have to have reports pulled from finance, and then we have to, VLOOK those up and see what's funded and what's truly unfunded. So, I mean, for our preference, we've talked with Commissioner over about this. It would be ideal to go ahead and wipe those unfunded positions off so we have a clean position report. However, we just haven't gotten there because there are a lot of commissioners and department heads that are just not ready to see positions removed from their department reports, if that makes sense.
So to play that back, just so that I'm clear, because it is often difficult to operationally create a position, having a holding position in somebody's org chart allows it to be an easier process because you really just have to find the funding. Instead of having two steps, in essence, create a position and fund it, if you've already created the position, then it's just the funding mechanism that's really the issue, right?
Correct. And they can actually utilize salary savings. So let's say they have a funded position, a funded vacancy, and they see mid-year that they cannot fill that position, they can utilize those dollars for another position. CFO Bala.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that we've seen both sides of the spectrum. I remember a while ago, before I got into the seat, people would have additional, kind of almost like additional budgeted capacity by having the positions funded without intending to fill them. So we went to a process of making sure that we're only funding the vacancies that are going to be carried for next year so that we're not overly budgeting specific areas. And Councilmember Juan and team, when he was here before, worked really diligently on kind of orienting us out of that process. And it worked out really well. We might have overcorrected to some part, but I think there is a good median, and we're happy to see that this personnel paper and the one right before it combined took about 325 abolishments out the system. Now, many of those are not funded, but it's also good to just get them out the system because we do have other mechanisms to add personnel in short term if needed, whether it's through extra help or other mechanisms. But I think it's a process that we'll have to continue to work through and look and work with commissioners and CEO and make sure that every department their staffing plans are well structured for the services that they want to deliver. So it's a very good question. It's a complex one too.
Yeah, and I appreciate both of those. I think in this period now where this personnel paper is going to come in, there are going to be some departments that are very much aligned towards almost all funded. There are going to be some departments that are working kind of as they have been. There are going to be some in the middle. So I think it's going to be incumbent that as much as we can have a chart that says positions, funded, filled, unfunded, that chart, which we've asked for, is going to be even more important, right? Because up to this point, we could say, well, everybody's got about 20% more positions, and so we sort of know, but now we're not going to know, right? Because some are going to be running and organized in a certain way, and other departments are going to be organized in another way. So I think the plea is that I understand that it's difficult to pull that in the system, but I think it's up to department heads really to showcase how it is they're trying to manage their department, right? Are they trying to manage it with unfunded positions being available, or are they trying to manage it basically with only funded positions and other mechanisms? It's going to be important for us because otherwise it's going to be hard to see from department to department, given that it's going to be not consistent, which is okay, but we just need that insight. So thank you for entertaining the question.
I'm going to lean into this one a little bit more. I mean, I think that works when we are growing and we actually end up with more resources in a given year than we thought that we budgeted for, much like we found ourselves in FY25. But when the reverse happens, and we're not necessarily saying that things are going to contract next year, but there is a likelihood, we got to think about this, because if it is easy, aside from the vacancy review board, it's easy to fund and then place unfunded vacant positions. We find ourselves at the end of the year in a position where it's hard to unwind that, as we all know. And so I guess, am I correct in understanding going into FY26 that if a department has an unfunded vacant position, essentially the two steps, or let's say three, the first one is they have to, if they had enough funding to fill that position and they could get approval from the vacancy review board, then they basically it's a procedural thing from HR, and then boom, they can post and hire that position. Is there another step in there that's another check or balance? Or is that kind of it? That's kind of it. I see her nodding. Well, go ahead, somebody.
I was gonna say that the Office of Budget and Fiscal Policy, they play a big role in it as well. So the departments complete a request to fill form, RTF, that goes to the Office of Budget and Fiscal Policy. They provide just a recommendation, and they kind of let the Vacancy Review Board know, hey, this is where the department is financially.
Okay.
So at that point, the Vacancy Review Board can then decide on if it's mission critical or not for, for the organization, if they can move forward. So they do have that, we do have finance involved in the decision.
And is that analysis only done at the department level, or do we look at it citywide so that, some departments actually have an abundance of resources, but others are way in a deficit mode, so that that decision isn't just based on who happens to have a bucket of money at the time?
It's done both on departmental level and citywide for the exact same reason you just mentioned.
Okay. So if this may be an area where if council wanted to work with the administration to at least put another gate in there somehow, just because of the uncertainty, that this might be where we could have some conversations. I get nervous about this. If kind of back of the envelope calculations say we have 12,000, I think that's the right number of positions. We've been hearing 15 to 20% vacancies in each one of the departments. So you extrapolate that out, and let's say half of those have either been abolished or are needed, are mission critical. I'll be honest with you, I was expecting an abolishment number in this paper somewhere between 300 and 500, not including the mid-year. So I still feel like we're leaving a lot of capacity on the table that is, in my opinion, an area of risk, financial risk for us, because of exactly what we're just talking about, the ease in which you can, I want to say it's easy, but the limited steps in order to be able to fill those positions. There is a goodness to it being difficult to create a new position, because you got to really think about it, and you got to plan, and you got to get the justifications in place to do it. And so, to me, it almost would be a good fiscal control to even that out a little bit. Make it also just a little bit more difficult to fill a unfunded vacant position because of the challenge of unwinding it later once you filled it. So I think that's a conversation we can have. We're talking about some ways of monitoring this as we go into FY26, but with personnel being 2/3 of our budget, roughly, this is where we really should be focusing anyway. And getting an understanding of general fund implications, enterprise implications, and trust fund implications. I think that's why you're getting these questions. So anyhow, that was my unsolicited 2 cents worth. Anything else from my colleagues in terms of personnel paper questions? Councilmember Winston.
One quick question.
Yeah.
I know that we had 125 abolishments in this paper. I was hearing a lot more being added today. Just approximately, could you just tell us what the addition was today? And then I know we'll have some more information early next week.
I believe it's approximately 93 additional abolishments today.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other questions?
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I knew going into this session, we would spend a lot more time this year than we have in previous years for all the reasons we mentioned, but I appreciate all the data that y'all provided. We'll look forward to getting the additional requests and seeing the final version close of business Tuesday into Wednesday. And that'll give us plenty of time before June 2nd. But yeah, Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Just thumbing through, I was curious, I saw on page 13 with city planning section 8 that there were that DCP was transferring positions, is also transferring positions on behalf of the Department of Labor. Can you elaborate on that?
So the Department of Labor, I think when they were Work Source Atlanta, they had positions that were, their department org was city planning. So they had a lot of positions under their position roster. So what they're doing now is transferring them over to the Department of Labor out of city planning, since they're now a department.
Understood. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So now that when they run their position report, they'll have all of their positions identified on their report. So they'll show all of those.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments?
Mr. Vice Chair, before we adjourn, I wanted, if you could, just take a moment of personal privilege. I wanted to thank all the departments across the city worked so hard with us over the last weeks or so to get this across the finish line. And also wanted to really thank my team, not only the folks sitting up here, but we had a number of folks in the audience and from HR and people who aren't here right now who spent nights and evenings working to get this done and redoing it and doing it and putting all your books together. And I want to thank Jennifer Hicks's team, particularly HR VPs who gathered all the information. But I just wanted to recognize these folks. If HR, can y'all stand up? I want y'all to be recognized. All the HR folks that are here, if you just stand and just give a wave.
Good job, Al.
So just wanted to thank them. They did all this in addition to their other duties. So we appreciate them. I wanted to take a moment. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you all. And obviously, we're looking through this and we're looking at it closely, so your work is not going unrecognized. With that, this concludes our personnel paper hearing today. I do have a couple of announcements. Wednesday, May 28th, there will be additional public hearings for the tax millage rate. Those will be held at 12 and 6 o'clock that day. And then the Budget Commission will meet on Monday, June 2nd to approve the FY26 anticipations. Yeah, it looks like we are on track for reviewing the entire budget at FEC on Wednesday. We haven't heard of any budget amendments proposed. So if you have any, make sure you get them to Councilmember Shook,
By when?
Mr. Evans, or the CFO.
By when?
I would say as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, by end of this week if possible, because we just need to get this wrapped since it's a short week next week into that.
Can you repeat that first announcement? I'm sorry.
It's public hearings next Wednesday on the millage rate at noon and 6 o'clock.
Just a quick question about that, if I may. I had a few constituents reach out. Is there a way for, if they are unable to attend, to submit questions ahead of time?
That interactive meeting was actually last night.
It was last night.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
They should send.
there were people that had come last night that it quickly ended because they were a little late. So I was trying to find out if there was a way for us to make it more accessible.
Why don't you talk to?
I will. I'll
CFO.
discuss it with
Yeah.
CFO. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody. We stand adjourned for today.